Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Welcome to another edition of Charlie Loves Science. Today we're going to be talking about the relationship between El Nino, the El Nino Southern Oscillation, also known as ENSO, and climate change. How the addition of more heat to not only our oceans but to our air is affecting the climatic changes that come with the oscillation. Now, first we need to talk about what is El Nino. I know there's a lot of confusion in the general public about what it exactly is, what causes it, and what it actually does for us here, not only just in eastern North Carolina, but what it does pretty much throughout the world. And what it really does, it changes your standard weather patterns by adjusting trade winds and jet streams across the entire globe. So here is kind of a breakdown of exactly how it happens. We start out with strong trade winds. Those are consistent winds that blow really from the east to the west across the Pacific Ocean. That pushes a lot of warm water from the coast of South America all the way across the Pacific towards the Australia and Indo-Australia areas. That, of course, brings about more warm water for those areas, and you get a larger amount of cold water kind of replacing that warm water off the coast of South America. And that again is kind of a basis for normal conditions. Now, as all that warm water pushes its way across the Pacific Ocean, what we end up seeing is a big gathering of very hot air around Indonesia. That leads to a lot of, we see an abundance of moisture. We see more cloud cover. We see stronger storms develop in those areas. But those are normal conditions. Now, when the trade winds start to break down, they get a little bit weaker. Some of that warm water doesn't get pushed all the way across the Pacific. It starts to inch its way further back towards South America. And this, again, is the beginning of El Nino conditions. It changes the jet streams across not just North America, but across the entire world. And La Nina is kind of the opposite. Whereas El Nino is a weakening of the trade winds, La Nina is a strengthening of those trade winds. And that allows more cold water to upwell off the coast of South America. And we get, again, colder sea temperatures off that South American coastline and the coast of Central America. That adjusts, of course, your breakdown of winds and jet streams across the world, and that obviously changes your weather patterns no matter where you are watching from, some more than others. Now, the study on the future of the El Nino oscillation, El Nino Southern Oscillation, with regards to really climate change, is that a normal El Nino usually sees a temperature swing of about 3 degrees. That's really, in the grand scheme of things, not really a whole lot, but you know that it has massive implications on your weather pattern, specifically here in eastern North Carolina. Whenever we get, again, El Ninos, we can see different changes throughout our winter months. Currently, right now, we are in a La Nina status that is being reported by the National Weather Service. Now, researchers found that the El Nino oscillation could intensify over the next 50 years as we add more heat to really the, let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit closer. If we add more heat to the oceans, we add more heat to really the air around the world, that is going to increase the swings in weather patterns we see across the world. Now, on your screen here is a breakdown over the past, looks like about 45 years of El Nino and its temperature oscillations across the Pacific. You can see some years in red representing El Nino, others in blue representing La Nina. Well, scientists have modeled out the extent of that El Nino oscillation over the next 100 years, and it points towards an increase in really frequency, but more an increase in impacts from El Nino. The warmer the oceans get, the more energy there is to kind of transition into some stronger storms around the Indonesian area. And that, of course, will lead to a more synchronized El Nino, where now we kind of have it every 2, 3, 4 years. We see kind of a swing back and forth. In the middle, we have kind of what are considered normal years. Well, once we add enough heat into the mix, those oscillations are going to become more normal, more averaged out, and become more predictable. Now that sounds nice. Prediction is, again, a great way to avoid natural disaster. But the problem is that whenever you add more heat to a weather issue, it tends to make it bigger and make it harder to control. Now, Dr. Sen Zhao, one of the co-lead authors of the study, said this, quote, "Our simulation results, which some other climate models support, show that ENSO's future behavior could become more predictable, but its amplified impacts will pose significant challenges for society worldwide." So while we'll have a better understanding of when El Nino and La Ninas are going to occur, the problems that they bring to the world will only get greater. Now here's a look at La Nina. This is again the status that we are in currently. And for eastern North Carolina, it tends to lead to warmer and drier winters. As that jet stream shifts its way a little bit further northward, it takes some of that colder and wetter air and it pushes it further north towards the Great Lakes. And that leaves every area south of that jet stream, at least in the southeastern United States, again, warmer and drier traditionally when compared to normal years. Now, El Nino, flip side of that. If you're wondering, okay, when is our best opportunity to see some snowfall? Arguably, it's during El Nino winters versus La Nina winters. In El Nino winters, we see colder and wetter conditions, both of the two main ingredients you need for snowfall, moisture and cold air. You'll have that more reliably during an El Nino year. Now, the warming seas and ocean oscillations, again, will enhance these impacts as we add more heat and greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. The warmer we get, the more pronounced these changes are going to be. Now, again, Professor Axel Timmerman, again, another co-lead author of the study, said, quote, "Our findings underscore the need for global preparedness to address intensified climate variability and its cascading effects on ecosystems, agriculture, and water resources." Again, this is just going to be an issue that unfortunately is going to be getting worse versus be getting better over the next several decades unless we can come up with a way to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions we put into the atmosphere and we reduce the amount of heat already present in the atmosphere. We, again, right now are approaching the 1.5 degrees Celsius mark off of average of where we are currently at in terms of global average temperature. If that continues to rise, our impacts from these types of weather phenomena will only get greater, more pronounced, and more dangerous for all of humanity. Now, we will have more, hopefully again, a happier science segment coming up next week. But I really wanted to highlight this as we enter the winter season. We are in a La Nina, and it's one that we need to understand that some of these impacts that we see during the winter months could be getting greater if we continue to pollute our climate and pollute Mother Nature. That is a great way to, again, just feel greater impacts and experience greater dangers and greater harms from the environment when things get too chaotic and too energized. Now, we will be back with more news and weather coming up at the top of the hour. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic Wednesday.